Well, hello, I'm Tom Seigel, Superintendent of the Bethel School District, and I'm back sort of by popular demand. I had a chance to talk about paleontology, the study of fossils, and some of the students that saw the video thought that was really interesting. And I actually had one stop me as he was driving by my house last week and said, "Keep those videos coming." So here's one more video on paleontology, the study of fossils. Now, what I'd like to do is, first of all, kind of bring you up to date. You may remember that I talked to you that we have a friend that we met fossil hunting in Wyoming, who is the videographer for the program Shark Week. And one of the interesting fossils he sent to me, in addition to that mammoth molar, not the woolly mammoth you may be familiar with, but the cousin, the Columbian mammoth, who was occupy the southern tier of the United States, whereas the woolly mammoth was on the northern side of the United States. He sent me a saber-toothed tiger claw. And there it is. It's probably about 3 inches long. I certainly wouldn't have wanted to meet this guy in the flesh, literally, back when. Turns out that saber-toothed tiger, which I'm sure you've heard of somewhere along the line, lived on the west side of the Andes. And then you can find remains of the saber-toothed tiger like this at La Brea, California, the famous La Brea tar pit, which was an open pool of petroleum during prehistoric times, where animals would slip and fall into the liquid petroleum, that is oil, and die, and their bones would be preserved. So it turns out that the saber-toothed tiger also inhabited Florida as well as California and Central and Southern America. So it's always thought that that is a pretty cool fossil. Also like to mention that from the same gentleman, you may have seen a picture last time. I have two examples here, but the Megalodon extinct shark, he found a couple of these teeth. There's one here that's about a good 2 inches tall, 2¼ inches across, and the other one, which is even slightly larger, I have to back it off a little bit, but it's a good 2 inches at least tall and 2¼ wide. So those are Megalodon teeth, and they lived between 23 million and 3.6 million years ago. So a different era as opposed to the saber-toothed cat, but certainly interesting to have found those in Florida. Also, he sent me a bone. This is a bone from a large mammal. He happens to have a little tag on it to keep track of what it is. What was interesting, and you may not be able to see this, but you can see deprecation marks. That's a fancy word meaning basically another animal is chewing on it. And so you can actually see that, there was an animal, a carnivorous animal, that was chewing on this bone millions of years ago, or at least I should say tens of thousands of years ago. And one last piece, and this may have been, it is obviously from a large mammal. It's a vertebrae, a bone from the spine, and get an idea how big it is. It's, size of a medium-sized apple, I would say. And perhaps it was from one of the mammoths we were talking about, the Columbian mammoth. I don't know. I'd have to research it some more. But again, just another fascinating find that he had from the state of Florida. Now, here in the state of Washington, I've had a chance to go over in the Morton area on the west side of the state and find some fossils over there. I don't know the exact age of this one, but it's probably in the area of around 10 million years old. And it's a seashell, a long cylindrical seashell built in this clay-like rock. And I have a couple of examples. I just found them fairly interesting. That's something that shaped would have been preserved. And here's another one actually sticking out of both sides of the rock. And I'm going to show you something that's a little bit different, but not much. It's simply a much larger version of what you just saw. And what's fascinating is the rock is developed around the center. So you may be able, yep, there you can see it. It's actually got a hole all the way through where the seashell goes all the way through. And this is about 2½, 3 inches wide. But the concretion, the minerals around the rock actually have surrounded this shell entirely. And as a result, you have basically a donut, a rock with a big hole in the middle of it, about 1/3 of an inch in diameter. And it's actually the inside of that shell that you just saw a minute ago. In this case, it's a larger shell than this one. So those are some of the things I found in Washington State. I showed you some crab fossils a little while ago in the last video, but I would like to shift over to another fish fossil from Wyoming. And this is one I found last September. And this one actually is a type of fish. This is about 9 feet, 9 feet, I wish, about 9 inches across. It's a good sized fish. And it's actually called I gotta get my cheat sheet here, Priscacara serrata, or they just commonly refer to them as a prisky. And you may not be able to tell too much from what you can see at this distance, but what's interesting is it has a beak-like jaw to it, and they estimate that it probably fed on crayfish and other shell-like animals that it could find in this huge lake that at once covered Wyoming. And it was kind of like you could consider like one of the Great Lakes in the northern part of the United States today. And it's a 50 million year old extinct lake now, actually in a desert-like area. So that was one of the more fascinating fish that we found. I've got a couple of examples of something a bit different. I have, first of all, a picture, just to give you an idea of what I'm going to show you, because it will not show up really well. This is a picture representation of a skate, which is a unique designed fish. And there are skate fish in this part of the quarry. I've got one that the smallest one I've ever found, or even seen, is only about 1.5 inches long. Just a little dinky thing, a little baby ray. But the reason I mention that is that they're fairly rare to find, but when they're true full adult size, they are 6 to 8 feet in length. So this is just a little baby ray I found. I do have another ray, a portion of it, that I will try to find and show you in the next video if you're interested in me making another video on fossils. I hope you find this interesting. Again, the idea is to stimulate your ideas about what you can do so you don't get bored. You can certainly double check what I told you about fossils in Florida and Wyoming and Washington State. And if there's another topic you find of interest, take a look, dig into it. Take your time now and expand your learning into something that you might find really interesting and expand it into a future career or into a current or future hobby. So thank you very much. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you in the fall.